Introduction. Secrets beneath the ice. Imagine standing on the surface of Jupiter's moon Europa right now. Beneath your feet lies 15 kilometers of ice. But this isn't ordinary ice. It's a living ice shell that constantly moves, cracks, refreezes, and merges. Above your head, Jupiter dominates a third of the sky, 40 times larger than the moon appears from Earth. Every 42 hours, Jupiter's magnetic field sweeps across Europa, showering it with 540 rem of radiation per hour, enough to kill a human in 1 minute. But here's what's fascinating. 15 kilometers below this deadly surface, there's more water than in all of Earth's oceans. A dark, warm, salty ocean. And when NASA's Europa Clipper mission launched in 2024, scientists confirmed a shocking reality. This ocean could harbor life. No could is insufficient. NASA's Hubble telescope imaged water geysers erupting 200 kilometers high from Europa in 2016. In 2019, organic molecules were detected in these geysers, along with water vapor. In 2023, the Juno mission confirmed that Europa's ocean contains salt, sulfur, and carbon, the fundamental ingredients of life. But the most striking discovery came in 2024. Scientists analyzing Europa Clipper's first data calculated the ocean's pH to be between 7.2 and 8.1, nearly identical to Earth's oceans. Temperature, between 4 and 15 in the deep regions. Pressure, similar to Earth's Mariana Trench. In other words, Earth's deep-sea organisms could theoretically survive in Europa's ocean. Today I'll tell you 2 stories. First, the incredible data NASA has gathered about Europa and what it means for the search for life. Second, the story of humanity's first colony in Europa's under-ice oceans in 2045 and the discovery made there. Get ready, because what's waiting beneath the ice will change everything we know. Europa's discovery and first observations. Galileo Galilei discovered Europa in 1610, one of 4 large moons he saw while observing Jupiter through his telescope. For 400 years, it was just a point of light, until Voyager 2 flew past in 19. Voyager's photographs stunned the scientific world. Europa's surface was the smoothest in the solar system, almost no craters. The implication was striking. The surface was young and constantly renewing itself. But how? Galileo mission, 1995-2003, the game changer. NASA's Galileo spacecraft flew past Europa 12 times. Each pass collected more shocking data. Magnetic field anomaly. Europa's distortion of Jupiter's magnetic field indicated a conductive liquid layer beneath the surface. Saltwater is a perfect conductor. Surface composition. Spectrometer data showed magnesium sulfate, Epsom salt, alongside water ice on the surface. Where did these salts come from? The only explanation: ocean water transported from below. Chaotic terrains. Regions called chaos terrain, where giant ice blocks had broken and refrozen, similar to Earth's glacial movements but on a much larger scale. Linear structures. Lines crisscrossing the surface showed the ice shell constantly opening and closing. Some lines were 20 kilometers wide. Evidence for the subsurface ocean. Hubble telescope's geyser discovery. 2012-2016, Hubble detected water vapor plumes erupting from Europa's south pole. Height, 200 kilometers, half the ISS's orbital altitude. Velocity, 700 meters, twice bullet speed. Water volume, 7,000 kg per second. Temperature, -42°, above freezing point. These geysers were sporadic, sometimes visible, sometimes not. Why? Jupiter's tidal forces stretch and compress Europa. During the strongest tides, cracks open in the ice and pressurized water erupts. Juno mission findings, 2022-2024. Juno was sent to study Jupiter, but close Europa flybys provided striking data. Raw and ice thickness, 15-25 kilometers, thinner than previous estimates. Ocean depth, 60 to 150 kilometers, 6 to 15 times Earth's deepest point. Salinity, 5%. Earth's oceans are 3.5%. Middle layer, warm ice, flows like plastic. Bottom layer, melted, semi-melted ice mixture. Global ocean, 25 to 175 kilometers. Volume, 3 billion kilometers 3. Earth's oceans, 1.3 billion kilometers. Mass 2 to 3 times Earth's oceans. Chemical composition H2O, NCl, MgSO4, CO2. Probable organics 3. Rocky mantle 175 to 425 kilometers. Silicate rocks, hydrothermal activity potential, serpentinization reactions, H2 production. 4. Metallic core 425 to 500 kilometers. Temperature 1,000–1,300 Kelvin. Convection currents. Life potential, astrobiological assessment. Requirements for life. Does Europa have them? Time. Swirlabel. Slip to 26. Stable ocean for 4 billion years. Energy cycle. According to NASA's calculations, Europa's ocean has abundant energy. Jupiter's radiation sublimates 0.3 meters of ice annually. H2O2 formed in this process mixes into the ocean. H2O2, CO2 organic molecules. Methanogenesis. This cycle closely resembles Earth's primordial oceans. Life on Earth began this way 3.5 billion years ago. Europa Clipper Mission 2024. Launched in October 2024, Europa Clipper will revolutionize humanity's understanding of Europa. Mission parameters: 6-year journey, 49 Europa flybys planned. Minimum altitude, 25 kilometers. Total data, 6 terabytes. Scientific instruments: Runneker Cephalbluge, Europa Imaging System, SGS. Surface mapping at 0.5 meter resolution. Radar, Reason, ice thickness and subsurface structures. Mass spectrometer, MASSPEX. Geyser composition, magnetometer. Ocean salinity and depth. Thermal imaging, hotspots. Plasma detector, radiation environment, gravimeter. Internal structure modeling, UV spectrograph. Geyser dynamics, dust analyzer, particles from surface. First data will begin arriving in 2030, but simulations already calculate a 67% probability of life in the ocean. Part 2. Dr. Keiko Tanaka's story. Europa 214-15. Prologue. Descent beneath the ice. May 14, 214-145. 0730. Europa Standard Time. Amundsen Scott. Under Ice Station, Europa. Dr. Keiko Tanaka gazed into the darkness from the laboratory, 100 meters above the ocean floor. Window was perhaps the wrong word. It was a 30-centimeter thick diamond carbon composite observation panel. Outside pressure, 1,300 bar, 13 times Earth's Mariana Trench, 13 tons of pressure per square centimeter. At 45, Keiko was one of Earth's most experienced deep-sea biologists. 5 years in the Mariana Trench, 3 years in Antarctica's subglacial Lake Vostok. But Europa was entirely different. Getting here required an 8-year journey, 2 years of psychological preparation, and perhaps permanent separation from her family. Earth was currently 628 million kilometers away. Even at light speed, messages took 35 minutes. Amundsen Scott Station was humanity's first permanent base in Europa's ocean. Construction began in 237, completed in 2000. Access was through a tunnel drilled through 15 kilometers of ice, with thermal drilling. Descent took 18 hours. Above, on the ice surface, were radiation shields and nuclear reactors. Below, in the ocean, a crew of 50 was about to make the most important discovery in human history. Journey to Europa. Keiko's Europa journey began in 21. The ship, Zoltimiwanas, Endurance, nuclear electric propulsion, 2,000 tons mass, 100 meters long. Inside were 20 scientists, 10 engineers, 5 doctors, and supplies for 3 years. Instead of a Hohmann transfer orbit to Jupiter, they used continuous acceleration with Vaz-Imar thrusters. This reduced the journey to 6 years. Chemical rockets would take 9 years. First half accelerating, second half decelerating, at peak velocity -200 kilometers. They crossed the asteroid belt. Approaching the Jupiter system, radiation levels increased exponentially. The ship's 2-meter-thick water tanks served as shielding. The crew spent 20 hours daily in the central storm shelter. When they entered Europa orbit, the view was breathtaking. Jupiter covered a quarter of the sky. The Great Red Spot appeared 3 times larger than Europa itself. Eo's volcanic eruptions were visible to the naked eye, and Europa itself, smooth, white, mysterious, waited below. Station structure. Amundsen Scott Station was an engineering marvel. Ice tunnel, 0.15 kilometer. Diameter, 10 meters. Walls. Aerogel coating to prevent freezing. Pressure locks. Every 3 kilometer. Emergency capsules. Every 500 meters. Descent time. Normal 18 hours. Emergency 6 hours. Main habitat. In ocean, 50 to 150 meters depth. Material. Graphene titanium composite. Theoretically withstands 5,000 bar pressure. Current pressure only. Thornimer bar. Life support. O2 production. Electrolysis from Europa water. CO2 scrubbing. Chemical scrubbers. Water. Purified from Europa ocean. 10 tons daily. Food. 60% hydroponic. 40% from Earth. First discoveries. The station's first-year discoveries exceeded expectations. Ocean chemistry. Dissolved O2, 0.3 ppm. Very low but present. H2S, 15 ppm. Hydrothermal activity indicator. Organic carbon, 120 ppm. Temperature layers. Ice-water boundary, -2 tolar, due to salt, was created strong ocean currents. But the real shock came with the first biological samples. First contact. June 18, 249, 4922. Keiko was examining a water sample from 1,000 meters depth under the microscope. A routine analysis. Men. Dozens were done daily. But this time was different. There's movement, she whispered to herself. She zoomed in. At 400 x magnification, something was swimming in the water. No, swimming was the wrong word. It was moving. 10 microns long, thread-like, but with thicker ends. Not flagella. Not cilia. It resembled no familiar locomotion organ. Her heart rate increased. She followed protocol. First contamination test. Negative. Then DNA/RNA analysis. The result was surprising. There were nucleic acids, but neither DNA nor RNA. Something different. 6 bases. Earth has 4. The sugar component wasn't ribose, but a different molecule. She zoomed in further. 1000x. Inside the organism, energy-producing organelles were visible, like mitochondria, but different. It seemed to be doing chemosynthesis, converting H2S to energy. Keiko's hands were trembling. Station protocol was clear. In case of potential life signs, immediately notify upper management. But she had to be certain first. European life. Xenomicrobes. Over the next 72 hours, the entire station was on alert. Every scientist examined the sample. The conclusion was indisputable. There was life on Europa. The organism was named European Xenomicrobe 1, EX1. Its characteristics were incredible. Biochemistry. Carbon-based but different. 6 nucleotide bases. Adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. +2 unknown. Protein synthesis. Uses 30 amino acids. Earth. Cell membrane. Not phospholipid, silicon-carbon hybrid. Metabolism, binary fission, like bacteria. Division time, 47 hours. Genetic material exchange present, conjugation-like. But this was just the beginning. Deep exploration. July 2045. The station had reported the discovery to Earth. The response came 70 minutes later. Confirmed. Maximum security protocol. Continue exploration. Keiko and her team descended deeper. To map Europa's life, robotic probes were sent to 10 kilometer, 20 kilometer, 50 kilometers depths. Different life forms were discovered at each depth. Planktonic layer, often like microorganisms. Density, 10,000 cells per milliliter. 17 different species detected, some bioluminescent, 10 to 30 kilometers. Filamentous colonies, thread-like colonies up to 10 meters long. Similar to Earth's cyanobacteria, but chemosynthetic, perform vertical migration, daily cycle, 30 to 60 kilometers, cloud layer, macroscopic aggregates, 1 to 10 centimeters, jelly-like, translucent, symbiotic microorganism communities inside. Some produce weak electrolytes, 60 but for soluble centolomers. Swimmers, first complex life, 130 centimeters in size. Bilateral symmetry, jet propulsion movement system, simple neural network, 8 different species. Keiko was particularly interested in one species, 15 centimeters long, translucent, with 4 fins. They named it Europa medusa. Its movement resembled Earth jellyfish, but its anatomy was completely different. No internal organs, cells distributed in the body wall, performed both digestion and respiration. Hydrothermal oasis, August 2045. The biggest discovery came when they descended to the ocean floor. Europa's ocean floor, at a 120-kilometer depth, was like Dante's Inferno. Hundreds of hydrothermal vents spewed water and minerals at 400 Zerg. But around these vents was an incredible explosion of life. The first area they named Thermal Oasis 1 spread across 5-kilometer chemotrophic mats, tube worm analogs to 2 meters long, living in silicon-based tubes, symbiotic bacteria inside, blood-like fluid, copper-based, blue color, crab-like arthropods, 6 legs, 2 claws, size 550 centimeters, exoskeleton, calcium silicate mixture, no eyes but highly developed chemical sensors, displays social behavior, octopus analogs, most complex European life, 8 arms, central body, size 30 centimeters, 2 meters, problem-solving ability, camouflage, color changing, signs of possible intelligence. Keiko observed one of these, Europa octopuses, for an extended period. The creature was examining the station's robotic arm, touching with its arms, tasting with chemical sensors, even trying to mimic the robot's movements. They're curious about us too, Keiko thought. Communication attempts. September 2045. Instructions from Earth were clear. Attempt communication with Europa octopuses. Keiko and the team developed underwater communication protocols, visual signals. Rones, Rundo. LED light patterns. Creatures respond to lights. They mimic some patterns. 2. Chemical signals. Various chemicals released into water. Octopuses show specific responses to specific chemicals. Attempts to create words with amino acid sequences. 3. Sonar. Low-frequency sound waves. Octopuses produce their own click sounds. May use echolocation. 4. Electric fields. Create complex patterns. Progress was slow, but promising. One octopus, nicknamed Charlie, regularly visited the station. It seemed to understand simple commands. Come, go, food, danger. The Great Discovery, the City. October 15, 2001, 03:47 EST. Deep Sea Probe. Costo 7, 200 meters above the ocean floor. Detected a strange structure on sonar. Regular, geometric, too symmetrical to be natural. When the images reached the station, everyone was shocked. The structure spread across 1 kilometer square. It consisted of hexagonal cells, each 10 meters wide, like a honeycomb, but 50 meters high vertically. Material, silicate carbon composite, impossible to form naturally. And there was movement. Hundreds of Europa octopuses swimming in and around the structure. They seemed organized. Some carrying materials, some repairing cells, some seemed to be waiting. Keiko and the team planned a special mission to examine the structure more closely. Was this a city, a hive, or something entirely different? First contact. October 20, 2145, 10 EST. Keiko was inside the deep-sea vehicle Triton. With her were xenobiologist Dr. James Patterson and linguist Dr. Yuki Nakamura. They were approaching the structure from 100 meters away. The structure was even more impressive up close. There were tunnels between cells, bioluminescent lighting, inside, blue-green light, and movement everywhere. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of Europa octopuses. Suddenly, a large octopus approached Triton, 3 meters long, different from the others. Complex patterns on its body. It didn't seem like natural camouflage, more like decoration, rank insignia. The creature spread its 8 arms on Triton's glass dome. Keiko made eye contact. or rather eye-to-eye like organ contact. Then something incredible happened. The patterns on the octopus's body began changing, first randomly. Then it began copying the symbols on Triton, the United Nations logo, then numbers. 1, 2, 3. They're trying to communicate with us, Yuki whispered. Keiko activated the submarine's external screen. She showed simple shapes: circle, square, triangle. The octopus displayed them on its body, then added its own shapes: spiral, hexagon, complex fractal patterns. After hours of this conversation, the octopus, the team named it Ambassador, made gestures inviting them into the structure. It was a risky decision, but Keiko accepted. Inside the city, Triton entered through the main tunnel. Inside was more complex than imagined. Different areas seemed to serve different purposes. Production areas. Octopuses here processed minerals from hydrothermal vents. They produced building materials using chemical reactions. Some separated metals. Some created polymer-like substances. Living spaces. Each octopus had its own room. Cells 3 to 5 meters in diameter. Inside, resting surfaces. Soft organic material. Belongings. Regularly shaped stones, shells, bioluminescent lamps, chemical markers, perhaps writing? Central hall. A giant void, 50 meters in diameter. Hundreds of octopuses gathered here. In the center, a 10-meter-high structure, crystal-like, with complex patterns inside. Computer, art, temple, nursery chambers. Young octopuses were protected here. Adults took turns caring. They taught the young movement techniques, hunting, and communication patterns. Keiko realized this wasn't an accidental living space. This was a planned, organized civilization, thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of years old. Mathematics and language. In the following weeks, communication rapidly improved. They understood the octopus's number system, base 8, connected to 8 arms. They could share simple mathematical concepts. Dr. Nakamura began deciphering the octopus's language: color changes, names and objects, pattern movements, verbs, bioluminescent brightness, emotional state, chemical secretions, grammar structure. The first sentence was simple: "We fly from here, you from where?" Keiko responded with screens: solar system map, pointed to Earth, then Europa. The octopus's reaction was surprising. They all vibrated simultaneously, a universal sign of surprise. Then Ambassador showed a new pattern, pointing up, to the ice, to the surface. They never went up. They knew something was above the ice, but didn't know what. History lesson. November 2145. Ambassador and other elder octopuses began telling their history. Through patterns, chemicals, and Yuki's developing translation program, the story emerged piece by piece. The octopus's ancestors evolved around hydrothermal vents 100 million years ago, by Europa years. Intelligence developed 10 million years ago, beginning with social hunting, growing with communication and cooperation. First cities were built 1 million years ago. But there had been catastrophes, major earthquakes, Jupiter's tidal forces, volcanic eruptions, and a period they called dark times. They nearly went extinct 100,000 years ago. Their current civilization was 50,000 years old. They had 200 cities, millions of individuals. They knew mathematics, chemistry, biology. They could even do simple genetic modification. Some octopuses were designed for special tasks. But the most shocking information was this: they didn't know what stars were. They had no knowledge of the rest of the universe. For them, existence was Europa's ocean. Above the ice was an unreachable, legendary place. Technology exchange. December 2045. Technology exchange began between humans and Europa, octopuses. From humans to octopuses, metalworking techniques, electricity usage, mathematics, especially geometry, knowledge about the surface, simple machines. From octopuses to humans, water construction techniques, hydrothermal energy harvesting, underwater construction techniques, hydrothermal energy harvesting, Navigation in darkness. New drug compounds. The octopus's chemistry was particularly impressive. 30 new compounds with antibiotic properties were discovered. Some killed cancer cells. One seemed to slow aging. The Great Project. Journey to the Surface. January 2046. Ambassador and the Council. Yes, they had governance. Presented humans with an incredible proposal. Journey to the surface together. For the octopuses, this was a millennia-old dream. But how? 15 kilometers of thick ice, 1,300 bar pressure difference, minus 165 rowopost. Temperature, solution, pressurized transfer capsules. Humans would provide technology, octopuses energy, and materials. After 6 months of joint work, the first capsule was ready. Arrival at the surface, July 15th, 2:46, 12 EST. Ambassador. In a specially made pressurized capsule. Arrived at Europa's surface after an 18-hour journey. It looked out through the capsule's transparent dome. Keiko watched the creature's reaction. Ambassador was completely motionless. All its colors had faded. A sign of shock. Then, slowly, patterns began appearing on its body. Yuki translated. Void, infinite, lights, this universe. Jupiter was rising on the horizon. The sun was a small but bright point. Stars were everywhere. Ambassador didn't move for hours, just watched. Then, it gave perhaps the most touching message in Europa's history. We, small, but now, not alone. Results and future, August 2146. The discovery had changed all of humanity. Europa had not just life, intelligent life, civilization, culture, the first real alien contact. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Religions were reinterpreted. Philosophy was rewritten. But most importantly, humanity now knew it wasn't alone. For the Europa octopuses, everything had changed too. They had learned about the vastness of the universe, stars, other worlds. Some were overwhelmed, but most, especially the young, were excited. A new age was beginning. Joint projects were planned. Pressurized cities on Europa's surface, human octopus research centers on the ocean floor, exploration of Jupiter's other moons, and maybe one day, journey to the stars. Epilogue. The message, October 15, 2046. Keiko's final report to Earth. We didn't just find life in Europa's oceans. We found siblings, neighbors, teachers. They showed us that life is more resilient, more creative, more diverse than we imagined. The octopuses are different from us. Their chemistry, thoughts, world are different. But we're also similar. We're curious. We learn. We dream. They too look at the stars and ask why. This is just the beginning. If intelligence could evolve in Europa's dark oceans, where else might it exist? On Enceladus, Titan, or in distant corners of the galaxy? We now know the universe is full of life, and perhaps life everywhere is curious like us. Are we alone? The answer is now clear. No. None of us are alone. Part 3. Scientific Analysis and Implications. Astrobiological Revolution. The Europa discovery fundamentally changed astrobiology. Drake equation update. The original equation estimated the number of intelligent civilizations in the galaxy. The Europa discovery changed the parameters. TraceEF. From probability of life developing, from 10% to 60%. Phi probability of intelligence developing, from 1% to 15%. Result, 100,000 plus intelligent species possible in the Milky Way alone. Expansion of life definition. TraceEF. Tor-like definition. RNA dot required. Solar energy not required. Carbon-silicon hybrids possible. Extreme pressure and temperature no problem. Fermi paradox solution. New answer to where is everybody? They're under the ice. Most life may develop in oceans, not on surfaces. That's why we don't detect radio signals. Technological gains. Technologies learned from Europa, octopuses. Biomimetic chemistry. 90% efficient chemosynthesis. Room temperature superconductivity. Biological. Self-healing materials. Biological quantum computers. New medicines. Europamycin. Effective against all known bacteria. cephalopod growth factor, accelerates tissue regeneration tenfold. Neural bridge compound, revolution in paralysis treatment. Energy systems, hydrothermal gradient generators, biological fuel cells, chemotrophic solar panels. Energy without light, ethics and philosophy. The Europa discovery raised deep ethical questions. Right to intervene. Should we give technology to Europa octopuses? Do we have the right to interfere with their evolution? Is a prime directive necessary? Rights and status. Proskamatio. Should Europa octopuses be considered persons? Who owns Europa? Humans or octopuses? How should resources be shared? Future relations. Rights is equal partnership possible. Risk of cultural contamination. Long-term coexistence. Future missions. The Europa discovery inspired new missions. Octopus-human joint colonies. Complete ocean mapping. 215-255. Other moons. Enceladus oceans. Titan's methane lakes. Ganymede's underground waters. 255-250-60. Interstellar messages. Joint SETI-METI with Europa octopuses. Multi-species messages. New communication protocols. 250-60+. Joint evolution. Human-octopus hybrid technologies. Joint space exploration. Perhaps joint evolution? Conclusion. The future beneath the ice. Paradigm shift. The discovery of life on Europa was humanity's most important moment. Apollo 11, the Genome Project, the Higgs boson, all paled in comparison, because this answered our fundamental question: are we alone? The answer wasn't just no. The answer was, we were never alone. Life is everywhere, even in the most unexpected places. Scientific revolution. The discovery affected every field of science. Biology, definition of life rewritten. Chemistry, new biochemical pathways discovered. Physics, biological quantum systems found. Medicine, dozens of new treatments. Engineering, biomimetic technologies. Philosophy, anthropocentrism ended. Religion, creation stories reinterpreted. Humanity's future. Contact with Europa octopuses changed humanity's future. No longer humanity, but solar system alliance of intelligent species. Joint exploration and colonization projects. Cultural and technological exchange. Perhaps one day, joint evolution. Final thoughts. When Europa Clipper launched in 2024, scientists hoped for microbial life. What they found in 2145 was civilization. What did this teach us? First, life is tenacious. It finds a way even in the most extreme conditions. Second, intelligence is not rare. Given the right conditions and enough time, intelligence evolves. Third, we are not alone and never were. The universe is full of life, perhaps intelligence. We found an ocean beneath Europa's icy surface. Life in the ocean, intelligence in the life. And this is just the beginning. Next stop Enceladus, then Titan, then perhaps Proxima b. In each new world, we'll find new life forms, new intelligences, new questions. And perhaps one day, all these different life forms together will answer the universe's biggest question. Why is there something rather than nothing? The Europa octopuses say to ask this question, and perhaps they're right.